സമ്മേളനത്തിലേക്ക് സ്വാഗതം ആശംസിക്കുന്നത് സെന്റർ ഫോർ റിസർച്ച് എക്സ്റ്റൻഷൻ ആൻഡ് ഡെവലപ്മെന്റിന്റെ സെക്രട്ടറി ഡോക്ടർ KNS.
It's my pleasure to welcome all of you to the discussion on 15th Finance Commission Organised by Center for Research Extension and Development. Cred നടത്തി വരുന്ന പല പരിപാടികളിൽ ഒരു സെക്ഷനിൽപ്പെട്ട പരിപാടിയാണ് ഇത്തരം ഡിസ്കഷനുകളും സെമിനാറുകളും. കാലിക പ്രാധാന്യമുള്ള ഒരു വിഷയം എന്ന തരത്തിൽ 15ാം ധനകാര്യ കമ്മീഷനുമായി ബന്ധപ്പെട്ട് ഉയർന്നു വന്നിരിക്കുന്ന ചില വിവാദങ്ങളുടെ പശ്ചാത്തലത്തിലാണ് ഈ വിഷയത്തെ കേന്ദ്രീകരിച്ചുകൊണ്ട് ഒരു പാനൽ ഡിസ്കഷൻ നടത്താം എന്ന് കണ്ട് തീരുമാനിച്ചത്. 15ാം ധനകാര്യ കമ്മീഷനിൽ മുൻപുണ്ടായിരുന്ന ധനകാര്യ കമ്മീഷനിൽ നിന്നും വ്യത്യസ്തമായി 2011 പോപ്പുലേഷന്റെ അടിസ്ഥാനത്തിൽ കേന്ദ്ര സർക്കാർ സംസ്ഥാനങ്ങളുടെ നികുതിയിൽ വീതം വയ്പ് നിശ്ചയിക്കുന്നതാണ് ഇതിലെ ഒരു വിവാദപരമായ സംഭവം. അതുപോലെ തന്നെ കേരളം പോലെ വികസനത്തിൽ മുന്നോട്ട് പോയിരിക്കുന്ന സംസ്ഥാനങ്ങൾക്ക് വീതം കിട്ടുന്ന കാര്യത്തിലും പല പരാതികളും ഈ ഘട്ടത്തിൽ ഉയർന്നു വന്നിട്ടുണ്ട്. ഇത്തരം വിഷയങ്ങളൊക്കെയാണ് 15ാം ധനകാര്യ കമ്മീഷനുമായി ബന്ധപ്പെട്ട് ഇന്നത്തെ പാനൽ ഡിസ്കഷനിൽ ഇവിടെ ഉയർന്നു വരാൻ ഇടയുള്ള കാര്യങ്ങൾ. ഓരോരുത്തരെയും ക്രെഡിന്റെ പേരിലും ഈ യോഗത്തിന്റെ പേരിലും സ്വാഗതം ചെയ്തുകൊണ്ട് ഞാൻ എന്റെ വാക്കുകൾ ഉപസംഹരിക്കുന്നു. നന്ദി, നമസ്കാരം.
I had the opportunity to work on fiscal decentralization. Now, the Constitutional Finance Commission did not come by itself as a surprise, because in a federal system, the political, administrative, and the fiscal powers are being shared with different levels of government. And since powers and functions are shared, finances also need to be shared. And the degree of sharing depends upon the federal structure of a particular country. As for India, to the extent possible, our founder fathers have avoided double taxation. It's rarely that same tax is being applied by all the governments, the local, state or central governments. So it has more or less defined who collects what. Unlike many other countries where you find sort of a double taxation. And there are certain principles which is being followed, one of which is non-discrimination. That is one discussions we had here, whether the terms of reference has certain inherent discrimination in itself against the states. Now, I'm not going to go through the terms of reference of the Finance Commission, as it has been extensively explained by the earlier speakers. Okay, I'd like to highlight this point. The Commission may consider proposing. It may consider. It need not. It's up to the discretion. All those items are there. But when it comes to population, it says the Commission shall use population data for 2011. It's not really very much on the discussion, though the Constitution says that Commission can set up its own procedures. It's not very clear to what extent the procedures means, though it's a quasi-constitutional body. Now, the bone of contention here is actually the change of population base from 1971 to 2011. And a criticism is that it appears discriminatory and biased against southern states and penalize them for effective and progressive measures to control their population. This is one criticism. Now, use of 2011 population census as a basis for devaluation of taxes would result in low resources allocation to the southern states. For Kerala, 71 share of population is 3.9% and 2011 is 2.8%. Now, let's see the last 3 or 4 finance commissions. What are the criteria and weightages they used? The criteria they used are income distance, population. Of course, 14th commission used both the populations with a different weightage. Index of infrastructure, fiscal discipline, tax effort, fiscal capacity discipline, area, forest cover, again only the 14th commission. And the figures are there. As you can see, the most important criteria is income distance. That almost accounts for 50 or more percentage. And of course, followed by population. Now, there is this Raghurajan panel which in 2016 tried to classify Indian states into least developed and most developed. Why I am bringing this here is that one objective of this devolution is basically to reduce the development gap, reduce backwardness and promote growth in such states. So the least developed states are the 10 states, which is Odisha, Bihar, Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, Arunachal Pradesh, Assam, Meghalaya, Uttar Pradesh and Rajasthan. And the most developed 7 or 8 states are Haryana, Uttarakhand, Maharashtra, Punjab, Tamil Nadu, Kerala and Goa. And the factors they used to compute this index, the monthly per capita consumption expenditure, education, female literacy, health, household amenities, share of SST population, urbanization, finance distribution, physical connectivity. Now, I'd like to put forward some questions, no answers, so just questions. Now, are these backwardness and their continuation entirely due to lack of resources alone? In other words, why these states continue to be backward? If more and more resources are given, will the backwardness disappear in a reasonable point of time? The impact of resource channel to this state over 6 decades through the finance commissions and others. From 1952 onward, 14 finance commissions have been developing funds and giving to reduce backwardness. What was the impact? Were the programs designed, formulated, implemented and monitored with the ownership and leadership of communities reflecting their locally with the needs and priorities? Now the money is spent in those states. To what extent the local people are involved in designing and implementing such programs? If they are not involved, of course, it won't be much effective. Now the question is bad governance contributing to backwardness and constraining development? Are there some fundamental issues? Like maybe there is something to do with the governance itself, those states. So if there are certain fundamental problems, and if you don't address those problems, then putting resource alone may not be very effective. If there are other fundamental issues concerning development, without addressing them, how to develop the states by pouring more money in them? Just put it. Now, these are the shares of Indian states from all the finance commissions. These are the shares of the so more or less the states which are in the development part. This is Andhra Pradesh, Gujarat, Karnataka, Kerala, Maharashtra, Punjab, Tamil Nadu, West Bengal. One feature of the states is that for almost all the states, the shares have been progressively coming down. For example, Maharashtra had an average of 18 to 12% in the early years, which has come to about 1.3 to 1.5% in the last 2 commissions. Kerala had about 4.4 to 4%, which has come to about 2.6, 2.3, 2.5. So Kerala's share now is around 2.5%. That's true for most of the states which are in the development. So their shares have been progressively coming down. Now let's take the other states. This is the Arunachal Pradesh, Assam, Bihar, Madhya Pradesh, Odisha, Rajasthan, Uttar Pradesh. See their shares. Like Uttar Pradesh has been receiving progressively around 18 to 19% or 18% throughout the years, all the finance commission. Similarly, Bihar, around 10%. Arunachal Pradesh has been increasing over the years. Rajasthan, the share has been increasing. So this is one question I am raising. In spite of being increasingly giving the resources to the states, are the developments commensurate with the level of resources there? Now, this is just for this chapter I found a bit interesting. See, Kerala has a fairly high per capita income in spite of not being producing a lot of goods and services. Kerala is an exception because all the developed states, the production is taking place. Now, again, take the per capita income. Kerala is much higher than national per capita income. So, any criteria we follow of income or income related isn't going to be favorable to Kerala. Just from an allocation perspective, that's what I'm telling you. Allocation perspective. I'm not saying it's good or bad. Allocation is not going to be fair. Now, this is the poverty. Now, in around the early 70s, Kerala's poverty was higher than India's. Now, our poverty rate is substantially low. So, any index or backward in that you develop for allocation is again going to be unfavorable for Kerala. Now, what Kerala and other southern states have done is basically to take population control measures very seriously and to see that population is being controlled and we reach a growth much lower than what is average for India. Now, what's the impact of that? As you can see here, the violet is the share of elderly people, that is 60 plus. The brown is the share of children less than 14 years, 0 to 14. And the green is 15 to 59 population. As you can see, the share of elderly is progressively increasing and the share of children are progressively reducing. And soon they will meet, the number will be same. What would be the implications? Again, this is between male, female, rural, urban. There is much difference on that one. The share of elderly in total population. It's all spread. Now, let's look at the life expectancy. Now, Kerala is relatively much higher than India, and it is going to be there for some more time to come. It's not going to be it. So we found that the share of children are coming down, the share of elderly is increasing, not only because the share of children is coming down, because people are going to live longer. Again, look into the share of elderly between, this is a percentage of population of elderly in total population, percentage of total population, between India and Kerala. Kerala share of elderly people are increasing much faster, and India it is much lower. Now, between around 2020 and 2025, for Kerala, these numbers will coincide. The share of children and share of elderly will be exactly the same. Means the dependency of Kerala population will be much higher. That is, the people depending on the working population in Kerala will be much higher compared to the rest of India. Whereas India, this is the next chart is for India. Now this is somebody told about the population pyramid. I took an example. For Kerala, this for 2026 projected by United Nations. The Kerala population is something like this. And if you look into the top, you find quite a few people aged between 70, 74 and 80 plus. Whereas Uttar Pradesh as a sample, it is like this. The child population is much higher. But one important thing to notice here is, you see that especially for the males above 70 plus, it is much less than the corresponding females. That is, our mortality rate of males above 70, 75, 80 are much higher than females. This is reflected everywhere. If you look at the number of widows in that age group, you find that most of the females are widows when they come to 80. That means men die much earlier and much faster. I'll come to the reasons to explain that. Now, unrelated to one thing, like say for example, it's not that Kerala doesn't have resource or something, just the bank deposit alone you take. KNS may be contributing Kerala at least maybe around 5 to 8% of the foreign exchanges of government of India just through remittances. Now, this is a chart by the ESCAP, United Nations. You see, Kerala, I told you, for about in 2020 around, the number of children and 0 to 14 age group, the number, the share, or even the number, and the elderly will be equal. And it will take almost under 25 years or 30 years for India to reach that level. Now, what are the problems with the elders? You can see, with respect to age, their mobility decreases, the percentage confined to bed decreases, confined to home is much higher, and for females, you can see confined to home is almost 25% at the age of 80 plus. So that means, because our population policy, we are going to have a section of population among us who needs extra care. Now, this is another way of presenting it in terms of speaking, memory, hearing, walking, chewing, vision, etc. What are the disabilities of elderly people? Now, why did I raise these issues? We always claim that Kerala has reached the quality of life of many Western countries. But in Western countries, elderly are cared very well. This is a chart I would like to show you. You can see here, the federal budget of a country is almost 50% is spent for social security and Medicare. Here the healthcare and education somebody else mentioned in India is the state subject. In most places it is the federal subject. So they have a lot of welfare measures. 50% of the revenue is spent on these welfare measures and Medicare. Now, my topic was challenges and opportunities of Kerala in the context of Finance Commission. Instead of asking for an incentive for a better performance on the population front, I think Kerala and southern states should be foreseeing the massive expenditure needed to care and attend to the elders, as is being done in other places. Especially for Kerala, as you can see, couples staying alone or lone member households, only one child or two child, they may be in another district, another state or abroad, and possibly they are staying because of the kindness of the neighbors and others, and maybe sort of a little bit of health care they get from the money abroad. I think some of them get money. But the point is, what's the healthcare in Kerala? The healthcare in Kerala is seeing doctors and consuming drugs. I think we have a fairly good health by seeing the doctor and consuming a lot of health. And why this high mortality of elderly in Kerala? Whereas our life expectancy is the best, is the highest, but our mortality is also quite high compared to other states. People in that age group in other states live more than in Kerala. That's the data I get. So a major expenditure the state has to even see now, not even foresee, has to do is actually caring elderly in terms of their health, their maintenance, their shelter, etc. It's a huge expenditure. And secondly, the dependency, because each working person has to support one or more than one person in the household. That is not really sort of a possible. When I say support, it does not mean economic support alone. So in Western countries, we have this sort of an old age homes, old age friendly homes where medical attention, the care they take, and family members, even they are far away, they come and look into it. We have a different system here. Our family also care for the elderly at their home. But what's the trend? If you look 10 years back, 20 years back, 30 years back, do the elderly get the same kind of attention, support from the family members from 30 years to now? No, it is decreasing for a number of reasons. That means this is an area government has to intervene. So my submission to this audience would be just deliberate on this and see that now because of the popular policies we have followed, I don't say this is it's a bad thing, it's a good thing. This is a logical conclusion of any development which comes in place. Only thing is, on the one front, we are implementing a program extremely well. On the other hand, we are neglecting an important need. So there's a mismatch. And where do those resources come? Basically, if you look into other countries, Europe, US, Canada, etc., this attention basically comes from the federal government, not from the state government. Of course, there's an excuse saying that federal governments also collect a lot of taxes. Here also taxes are paid by all of us. Even the poorest person pays tax when they buy a thing. That's indirect tax paid by them. So every moment they live, they are earning, they are paying taxes directly or indirectly to the state or center. But after a certain age, when they are not able to work, what do they get in return? I think this is a question mark. And